Hello everyone, and welcome to the OptiFish Partner Spotlight, a series that brings you closer to the people and innovations shaping the future of sustainable fisheries. I'm 𝐭𝐚𝐤𝐬𝐤𝐬 from Reframe Food, and as the Communications Manager for OptiFish, I'm happy to guide you on this journey. In today's episode, we'll discuss why the sorting band is a key focus area for OptiFish with Sander Delacauw from ILVO, the coordinator of the project. Welcome, Sander. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
So, to start, can you explain the role of the sorting band in large-scale demersal fisheries and why this is a key focus for OptiFish?
Yeah, so the sorting band is the area where the catch is sorted out based on species and size. And the catch is gradually brought up onto the sorting band, and that creates an opportunity to have broad overview of the entire catch that goes in there gradually. We have the non-target species and the target species. The target species are taken out. The non-target species remain on the sorting belt and they go back overboard into the sea. For some of these target species, you have undersized fish that has to be retained because of the landing obligation. These are not for human consumption, but they go to the processing industries where they get a lesser value for their fish. Then we have a great overview of the catches because we have the logbooks, but we have the discards are less covered, and because of that, that's the focus of our pilot, where we put the cameras on top of the discards, and in that way we get an overall view of the entire catch.
Okay, so monitoring is crucial for sustainable fisheries, especially when tracking discards. Can you now explain to us how electronic monitoring cameras, multispectral cameras, and DNA technology work together to enhance this process?
Yeah. So first of all, we have the electronic monitoring cameras. They look at the visible spectrum of light. And together with artificial intelligence, we can have a real-time data collection of the species and the lengths. But of course, it's not always possible to identify on the species level. Then next to that, we have the multispectral cameras. The multispectral cameras are more for quality assessment. So with multispectral cameras, we look beyond visible light, so into the UV spectrum and infrared spectrum as well. And there we can get information such as bloodings, parasites, or even with some of these cameras, we can have an idea of the protein content or the fat contents. Then finally, we have the DNA. With the DNA, we can have a reliable presence-absence of the species for the fish as well as the parasites. So where we sometimes miss some species with electronic monitoring, DNA can have can fill these gaps. But of course, it's not real time. So, and together, these technologies can complement each other in identifying species in the first place, but quality as well.
Okay, so by combining EM cameras and multispectral cameras and DNA technology, we get a more detailed picture of the catch, right? Beyond species monitoring, these technologies also help ensure responsible fishing practices. So how exactly do you detect anomalies and enhance transparency and data quality?
So the output of these technologies are very important for transparency and for high quality data. They form like the base for it. And OptiFish, one of the goals is to have this data flow into automatic reporting. But of course, you have the output, and it's important that you check this data on quality before you let it flow into the automatic reporting. That's why we're looking at identifying anomalies within this data. So, for example, if there's something in the line of sight of the cameras, that there's notification, if there's a species identified that you wouldn't expect in an area, or just a sensor that's not responsive, that should be then flagged in the data. And then afterwards, people can have a look at it, at what kind of anomaly it is. Or you can send a notification to the fishermen so they can interfere and ensure that the quality of the data is remained before it goes into reporting.
I see. So by improving transparency and compliance, these technologies keep fishing operations accountable, but they also enhance efficiency and sustainability. So how does the real-time monitoring of sorting operations support these activities?
So the real-time character of these technologies can provide us with more, but also with faster data, especially for data-poor species, which are less covered at this moment. We can make faster, but also more accurate advice for the species. Next to the scientific opportunities, we can also provide these fishermen with the data. They can have an overview of their catches in real time, which can ensure that they're making more data-driven decisions. But we can also take historical data, put them in models, and in that way we can have some catch prediction models for maybe avoiding undersized fish, for example. Next to that, for the hyperspectral cameras, so the multispectral cameras, we can also use this data and give them to the fishermen so that they have some sort of an overview in which methods they should use to have the highest quality for the catch.
So real-time data helps keepers to make informed decisions and also improves sustainability and catch quality. What challenges do you foresee in deploying these systems across multiple pilot vessels in the North Sea?
Well, first of all, we have some technical challenges. We're working in a marine environment, so that comes with a humid environment, with salinity, so you need to make sure that your technologies can withstand these conditions. There's a reason why some companies avoid developing technologies for marine environments, because it's sometimes hard to make sure that they're not affected by the environment. And then next to it, you're bringing new technologies on board of the vessel, so you need to make sure that these technologies do not disrupt the traditional methods on board, so that it's more complementing instead of interrupting. And then you have social challenges. You're putting cameras in a working environment. For me, if there would be a camera in my office, it would also feel uncomfortable even if I'm not doing anything wrong. So we need to make sure that we communicate with the fishermen to make sure that they understand what we're doing, and then give them the information where the data goes through. So transparent communication is key there, and making sure that you overcome these social challenges as well.
So it's very important that the fishers feel that their personal data are protected. Integrating these systems requires technological resilience and trust, of course, from the fishing communities. How will the pilot's findings support the project's broader goals for improving fisheries management across Europe?
So there are three things. First of all, with pilots, we'll find out how these electronic monitoring cameras, the multispectral cameras, and DNA can complement each other in the best way. These technologies will also make sure that we have quicker feedback and more immediate insights, so it will help in decision making. And then finally, we're looking at setting some minimal requirements for these technologies, standardizing and making decision support tools to make sure that we have consistent outputs for this fisheries data. So in that way, we can have a comparative analysis for different regions, but also make sure that there's a high data quality for the fisheries management and overall.
So Sander, thank you very much for being here today and sharing your insights and giving us a deeper understanding of the role of the sorting band and monitoring technologies in large-scale demersal fisheries.
You're welcome.
To our audience, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the OptiFish Partner Spotlight. If you would like to learn more about OptiFish, visit our website, sign up for our newsletter, and follow us on social media for more updates on the project. See you in the next episode.